her probation in a halfway house a block away from where I worked. And so part of her requirements to get out of there was to get a job. So she got employed where I worked. And I've always been a soft-hearted sucker, for a good sob story. And her husband and child lived in Pittsburgh, and she needed a ride there. She obviously couldn't drive because of the DUI and the drunkenness. So she gave me a little gas money, and I ran her to Pittsburgh. And her husband and her didn't see eye to eye, so the visit that was planned with her child didn't go off the way it was supposed to. She didn't get to see the baby. So we had to rent a motel room to spend the night, and we were just out driving around on Broadway Street and turned around in, everybody cruised what they called cruising the gut, which was basically from North Broadway to the other end, South Broadway. And everybody turned around in the Hardee's parking lot and went back up. Well, across the street was a Little Caesars pizza place, and your dad and his brother and some of his other degenerate buddies were sitting out there eating pizza and pounding their stereos because they all had these really, really amped up, loud 2,000 speakers. The whole car was speakers, and it was thump, thump, thump. And as we were getting ready to leave the driveway, with my friend, her name was Sherry West, that was your dad's stepsister, looked across the street and said, "Oh my gosh, that's my brother, pull in over there." And that's how I met your dad.
What were your first thoughts when you saw him?
That he was a dirty boy. His hair wasn't cut, he had grease on his pants because he worked on hot rods, and he had the prettiest blue eyes I'd ever seen.
How old were you?
I was 19.
How old was he?
29.
That's a pretty big age difference.
Well, when I met him, I thought he was like 25 because he didn't seem that old. And I didn't know how old he was for a long time.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how far away was Pittsburgh, where the area I was born, away from where the area you were born?
About 148 miles. Basically a 3-hour drive north of Pittsburgh.
Yeah, so that's a pretty long ways to go.
Well, like I said, I was a good sucker for a sob story, so, my friend needed a ride up to see her baby, and, I love a road trip. I've never had any problems going on long drives. I love that. And seeing new places, I love adventure, and, I was a kid. I didn't have a child at home waiting on me, and I had the weekend off from my job, so it was, off we go on an adventure.
So... Tell me some things you remember about the births of your 3 children.
The births?
Yes.
Well, firstborn was born 3 weeks early. 1.5 pushes, and she shot out like a bullet. 4 pounds, 14 ounces of angry, screaming little baby. She was that way, still is. She was a difficult little child, temper, just very defiant and angry, and that was my firstborn. She was that way in the womb too. Kick, kick, punch, punch. Angry baby. You were born second, and you were a very mellow pregnancy. You hardly ever kicked me. It was kind of like little butterfly touches. You just lightly would drag your hand across my guts. You were 2 weeks late. They induced your labor because you just weren't ready to come out, but I was ready for you to come out. 7 pounds, 1 1/4. Basically easy. You were the easiest, real easy, And the last born, your brother, all my pregnancies were easy. I didn't have any real issues. He was born right on time. No inducement needed. The water broke about 6 in the morning, and I tried to wake your dad up, and he went back to sleep. So I went and sat on the couch with my feet in the air to keep the water in, and called my friend from church